DeX is a pretty big deal. This is a huge crown jewel feature for Samsung phones, premium Samsung phones, but it gets so little attention. I mean, if you've been spending big money on your Samsung purchases, there's a fantastic feature that helps you get even more bang for your buck. I'm hoping Samsung isn't slowing down on DeX. We've got a problem in how we talk about smartphones in the tech industry right now, especially 2 years out of a global pandemic where a lot of us have been working from home, school has been from home, we're looking at a changing workforce, less travel. But what's the point of more compute power in our phones if we can only do phone things on our phones? From the peak of Huawei competition in that arms race between Samsung and EMUI, one of my favorite features to test drive has been desktop modes. Plugging a phone into another display or a dock and getting a more traditional PC-style interface to work from. We've been playing with this idea for years. Ultimately, I think the main failing is one of familiarity. If a user is more familiar with Windows or with Mac OS, then it's more of a challenge utilizing something like DeX to get real work done. I'm not particularly interested in using my phone like a computer on another computer. Now, I understand some of the edge cases where that can be handy, but really, I'm more interested in contained use. Why buy more computer and tablet when one computer phone just is good? If you've followed any of my videos or ramblings in the past, I think it's pretty clear I'm not a huge fan of current Samsung, but DeX is a crown jewel feature that I don't believe gets enough attention, especially enough practical attention, especially as we see a changing landscape of consumer tech needs. Looking specifically at the Note 22, DeX is a joy to use. My personal use for these kinds of desktop modes, I like to show them off with my series of laptop docks. It looks a lot like a traditional laptop, but there are no computer guts inside. You've got a touchscreen, a keyboard, a trackpad, extra ports and I/O, and then just a big old battery, and your phone, the brain in your phone, powers this whole experience. I'm on a mobility experiment that I've been conducting since the LG V20, and I genuinely don't travel with a laptop anymore if I can help it. I haven't used a laptop for any travel coverage since I was working at Pocketnow. It's an interesting battle of pros and cons. Now, my nicest laptop dock sells for around $350, which can totally get you a reasonable student-grade Chromebook. I'm genuinely a person who would flip my phone every year, maybe every other year, if I weren't a tech reviewer. So I can own a nice phone and a Chromebook. That Chromebook is likely less powerful than that nice phone, or I could own a nice phone and a dock to use that phone's desktop mode. After a year, I'd probably upgrade my phone. My phone gets more powerful, but that Chromebook stays the same. Another year, and the Chromebook stays in place. After 5 years or so, the Chromebook falls out of support, and I have to look at installing Linux on it just to keep using that same, somewhat underpowered hardware, or that same cash investment in the laptop dock I've always had. And every time I flip my phone, my laptop gets increasingly more powerful than the Chromebook I could have owned. It's a function of the way some people work on the go. I think a lot of folks are mixing up a healthy collection of traditional x86 programs, mobile apps, and web services. So I think it's kind of tech lazy to point out this mobile workflow isn't gonna be the right fit for everyone if we also don't highlight that this is already overkill computing potential for a huge number of potential users, especially as techies. We just can't be afraid of changing up our behavior a little and finding a few different apps to get the same work done. We are techies, yeah? And DeX is a huge value add. And we take for granted all the ways we use a phone as a primary communication and technology option. It's probably the first computer you think of for any interaction. But taking those same apps and simply giving users more canvas to work with, the ability to resize a window and working off the same data connection without having to worry about cell plans, accessories, or tethering fees. It's so annoying that it's current year And I still need to read the fine print on my cell carrier's unlimited options to see if they cover tethering. To the actual software, I like how DeX has matured, but it makes me anxious to see how the core service has kind of plateaued. It's easily the most visible solution for this kind of use, but they're still refining that all of us users could benefit from. I love that the bottom dock is now more PC-like. Everything has an interaction, panels pull up like a traditional desktop, notifications are easy to interact with, and apps properly minimized to this tray in a save state. DeX is stretching Android well past even tablet-style use. And that's why Galaxy tabs have often been my most recommended tablets, especially for people I know who are a bit more productivity focused. You can escape the emptiness of Android on a larger screen and use a more practical traditional computer layout. I still wish some UI elements could be cleaned up. Like, the DeX app drawer just feels so old school Android. And the EMUI style of this years ago looked significantly more mature. And obviously, we still need to improve on app interactions. The number of apps that have zero awareness of how they're being used or where they're being used, the apps that might wig out when they're being resized. Phone developers likely have almost zero interest in this concept, and only a few major players are even looking at tablets seriously. The remaining issues are definitely infrastructure related. If you haunt the DeX subreddit, we're still complaining about things like better trackpad support. While writing the script for this video, I brushed the trackpad a couple of times and that sent my cursor flying off to another part of my document, messing up what I was trying to type in that moment. You have to Control Z a couple times to get back on track. That's super annoying. But those types of issues don't get better if you're sitting on the sidelines, if you're waiting for Samsung and DeX to spoon feed you the setup you already have on another OS, then it'll never happen. And you can keep buying multiple computers you might not need to buy. Because I think the issue of improving desktop modes in general, and DeX specifically, runs smack dab into consumerism. The fear that if we aggressively make these modes better, what incentive will someone have to buy a really expensive tablet or another laptop for their family? Maybe they can sit out a Chromebook or a desktop. Maybe, gasp, they might use it and just genuinely like it. And that makes me nervous. Samsung is one of those driving forces motivating Google to update Android for tablets. We haven't seen significant changes or updates to DeX since adding support for wireless streaming to smart TVs. DeX was omitted from the Z Flip, likely for very good reasons in terms of performance and battery, but the tech industry also seems motivated to reduce phones to the most basic use. If people are buying expensive folding phones and they aren't bothered by a lack of productivity features, how long until we see those features cut from the middle premium tier phones like the S22? The Note 22 is a champ. The S22, I don't know I would rely on as heavy for laptop replacement use. Samsung would need to be more involved with accessory manufacturers, even their own internal laptop division, and improve support for things like trackpad rejection. They would need to crunch the numbers on things like laptops sold versus accessory profit margins. They could do with improving the battery options on a Galaxy phone like a Sony Xperia or a gaming phone. You need to be able to set this phone to not charge when it's plugged in to reduce wear on the battery. All of those pieces have a cost associated to develop and implement. The company behind those moves would need to see a rise in profits to offset those costs. And that's where we're stuck. It's not a lack of compute power. We're way overkill on compute power. It's not even a lack of good accessories. I like to show off the more expensive laptop docks, but many families could offset the need for a new computer with a 2-year-old Galaxy, a cheap Bluetooth keyboard and a mouse, and an inexpensive monitor, or connecting it directly to a TV. Think of how many families are still struggling with adapting to life post-pandemic, prices rising on components and computers, and in their pocket right now might be all the computer they need. But we've got techies over here acting like, it's not perfect yet. Let those consumers eat cake. Because here's the deal. This could be an average consumer feature right now. But it only comes to the most expensive phones, and it's talked about like it's such an incomplete chore of a feature to use. But it's a critical advantage on a Samsung that few other companies even try to compete against. When confidence in premium Android is at an all-time low, these are the features that highlight the merit of buying an expensive Android. The average selling price of a Samsung phone in 2021 was $270, and the top selling phone was the Galaxy A12. Making Galaxy S phones more like iPhones doesn't seem to be inspiring many people. Seems to reinforce why only iPhones are worth spending more money to own. Now, maybe it's time to shift that strategy and focus on the things that are truly unique about a premium phone. It's just a thought. And just the last bit to put a pin in this editorial, this entire video was mostly produced on the Note 22. The script was written in Word on my laptop dock. I shot it from my mirrorless cameras, but it was edited in Power Director, and the 4K version of this video is available on my Patreon. As always, thanks so much for watching, sharing, subscribing, smashing bell icons. We've got some grown-up conversations that we need to have about not just the tech, but how we cover the tech. The media literacy is part of the review. All of the support has been fantastic on the channel. Please consider jumping in and joining this list of names scrolling by on your screen, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This is a list, the coolest collection of tech nerds in the galaxy. So I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, so I'm on the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next video.